Commissioner Nicole Wilson is our District 1 County Commissioner. She has done an amazing job keeping us informed on what's going on in the county and making sure that when things happen in the county that all of the residents in our rural settlement are notified with the community notices and the public hearings and things like that. So she has been Johnny on the spot for us to make sure that we are always in the loop and informed. So that's what she's going to do today, is go through a couple of things that are relating to that. And we told her 1 hour, so I'm going to shut up now. And here's Commissioner.
It does kind of make you want to sing, but I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't ever punish you all that way. Thank you so much. Thank you for being patient with me while we get information together. The last community meeting that we had, actually, that I was in attendance, was over a case. And so it's so nice to come out and kind of do things that are not specifically tied to a case and that we can give an overview. And so we really have some people from Orange County for the various departments that you interact with. We've got people from our Sheriff's Department here also. I know that that public safety is of great concern, and we really want to make sure that we're providing the resources and all the communication you need. Hopefully we've got a slideshow coming, or at least some information to kind of keep us organized, otherwise we can veer off. Some updates from Orange County. We are hiring in every department. So if you or anyone you know is looking for something, from Parks and Rec all the way to Corrections, we have openings. There are some exciting slides coming. Look, I'm like that. You're awesome. Thank you.
1 to 16, and then I skip to page 30.
Okay. So some of this, I think, is a little background. You all know already that that I'm your District 1 Commissioner. I am not running this year, which feels like a big, deep breath of air for the people that are, and I was honored by being appointed to the canvassing board, the supervisor of elections. And something that I just try to really remind people of when I'm out and about is to check your voter ID, your card. A lot of the times people who voted by mail either forgot to sign it, or the last time they signed it was 10 years ago. And even those of us who are still in our teens and 20s, your signature changes. So sadly, some of the ones that got set aside looked to be some people that maybe just their gross motor skills may have changed. So make sure that you're updating your voter signature and your voter card. We just recently finished I'm not going to get into this yet because I'm going to wait for the slides, but the Orange County budget, and it's a strange time because of course we have to make sure that within the Orange County budget, it's not just the things in the departments that you're familiar with, but it also includes the Sheriff's Department and Orange County Fire and Rescue, and even our courthouse is under that budget. So those things are exciting if you ever need a special breakdown of all of that. And then I think, because I think that our Sheriff's Department representatives that are here, Captain Ela, they didn't have slides, so do you all want to do your part now? And that way we can make sure that if you want to introduce yourselves, and that way we can, because I think it's important to be able to see the maps that our planning people have in transportation. So we'll go ahead and bring up our amazing sheriffs.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dennis Ela. I am the captain of Sector 3, so this area falls within Sector 3. You all know that. My predecessor was Tony Marlowe. He left mid-pandemic, January 2021, and I've been here since. It's great to be here. It's great to meet with you all. I'm open tonight for any questions. I have some experts here. One of the questions that was forwarded to me that some people might have some concerns about property fraud, deed fraud, things like that. If that's an interest for the group, I do have an expert who can tell you how to protect your properties from unscrupulous con artists who might try to take it. I also have somebody here who's with our community services section who's a crime prevention officer that can give you a lot of tips on how to keep your property safe, how to make it less attractive for people to target, and things like that. Other than that, I'm happy to fly by the seat of my pants here and answer any questions that you might have for me.
Well, I know one that has come from residents that you might be able to help kind of alleviate concerns about is that we don't have a substation over in this area, and And does that affect response time, and can people kind of expect a certain amount of response time?
Yeah, so I can give you some basic data on that off the top of my head. So how we deploy resources is based on what is called Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes is data that's reported to the Department of Justice on an annual basis, right? They keep track of all this data regionally, geographically, nationwide. If I'm fully staffed, I have 130 deputies to work Sector 3. If you're not familiar with the geographic boundaries, it's basically John Young Parkway to Lake County, Highway 50, almost to 192. We are in process. Is there any wood to knock on here? Don't shoot the messenger, because I'm not a techie guy. But supposedly April of 2023 is when we are planning to flip the switch for the rezoning, redistricting of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. What that basically means is that areas like this, when I was a younger man, I used to ride my motorcycle through the orange groves out here, 545, 535, and you might pass a house every 3 miles or whatever, and it was just beautiful country. Well, obviously, things change. Horizons West was 18,000 residents in 2012. It's 70,000 as it sits right now. We have not updated anything with all of that growth, and that's not just here, that's also on the east side. If you're familiar with Avalon Park, that was ranch land 10, 15 years ago. There was nothing east of Alafaya Trail, there was nothing south of Highway 50 out there to hit Bethel and Christmas. Well, my bad if you can't hear me. So anyway, long story short, we are redistricting. This has been a multi-year project. Again, I'm not a tech guy, but if you can imagine that we have this database that we've had in place for 20 plus years, and it speaks German, okay? And now we have this new database that we're trying to go to that speaks French. Somebody has to translate 20 years of data, and I'm talking every single call for service, every person stopped, every person arrested, every victim of a crime, everything we've ever done for 20 years, to the tune of about 1.4 million contacts a year, into a new language. So that's my understanding from a purely a layperson standpoint is what the holdup has been. We're almost there. When that happens, I will no longer have geographic responsibility for anything north of Highway 50 or in the 408. That'll be my northern boundary. What does that mean? It means I no longer have Pine Hills in Sector 3. Part 1 crimes, I spoke to it about it a minute ago. This general area, as of August 1st, has experienced 110 Part 1 crimes for the calendar year. 110 Part 1 crimes. That's auto thefts, auto burglaries, residential burglaries, commercial burglaries, domestic violence, robbery, you name it, all these different categories that we capture. Conversely, Pine Hills, roughly the same population, had 750 Part 1 crimes, 250 of which were violent. My resource allocation is going to go where the business is, for lack of a better way to put it. And it just is how it is. When this switch gets flipped, that area will go to Sector 1, which means that one sector will have all of Pine Hills. I no longer will. I'm going to say roughly 60% of my assets are dedicated to that geographic area right now. 60% of my assets won't be dedicated to there when we flip this switch because I won't have it anymore, which means that I will have more staffing in this way, in this area. Zone 31, which is where you fall, when this map was drawn, it probably was 500 people who lived out here. It'll be all broken down into smaller geographic zones, each zone staffed by an individual deputy. More people, more presence, all of those. I am looking forward to that happening. Speaking of the substation, I don't have any say over this. I don't have any control over this. Actually, the sheriff has very little control over it. My substation right now is in Ocoee. It's on Story Road by the auto auctions. When this switch is flipped, I will no longer, where I work day in and day out, hacking at my keyboard, will no longer be in Sector 3. I would love to have a substation out here. Not up to me. Not up to me. But y'all are voters. Y'all have voices. I spoke to Horizon West is about 70,000 residents now. 5 years from now, probably going to be more like 130. or more. The bulk of the citizens that I serve and that my people serve on a daily basis will be in this geographic area, general geographic area. I would love to have a substation out here.
I think we can all agree we'd love to have you.
Well,
So that is that's definitely a.
what did I answer those questions?
That was perfect. If anybody has any.
The only other thing I did want to add was Sheriff Lewis, Deputy Lewis, Ms. Lewis, sir,
Come on up.
She, well, I have her email address and her name. She is not the Sherry Lewis, I keep saying, of the little puppets, lamb chop, but her name is, so that's why I'll never forget her name. But she is crime prevention, so what I would like to do is we will, when we recap this meeting, I'll send out her name and her email address. So if you would like her to give you some suggestions on helping to prevent crime at your particular residence or whatever, she will be able to assist you with that. So that will be in the recap.
I was gonna say I would love if we want to maybe get a group together and kind of do a little.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we could do that.
Little stuff, because I know we have a lot to get through, but that I think would be helpful for everybody, whether it's a church here or a business or a home. I'm sure there's different things that everyone can look at that would help. Just reach out.
Did anybody have questions as well about the property fraud? Was there concerns about that? That somebody wanted some general information on how to prevent that, or no?
Can you just give us a?
I cannot, but that's way above my my potential, ma'am. But I do have somebody here who does that daily.
That Reader's Digest version?
Chris, you got a Reader's Digest version?
Nice. Look at this.
What is it?
What it is people, and it's generally in more of a tourist-oriented area, right? Where somebody has an investment property that they rent out. They're not there all the time. Unscrupulous people will steal your deed, create a fake deed. They'll file it at the court and claim it as their own. But this gentleman can do a lot more credit to that than I ever could. So this is Detective Chris Williams. He's in our economics crime section. This is the type of stuff and much more complex than that he does on a daily basis. He's old like me, which means he's got a lot of years under his belt. Take it away, Chris.
As a matter of fact, thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm so old, this is the sector I started out in, and I remember getting calls down here to remove cows from the road. So this is my partner, Brian Cross. We are the two most senior detectives in the Orange County Sheriff's Office. And we've investigated a lot of different things. And right now, we investigate white-collar crimes or economic crimes. As far as you're concerned about fraudulent deeds, was that the question about people obtaining your property fraudulently? Okay, so it's a real simple, there's no complex way or database you can go to obtain alerts for these type of things yet, but right now, just go onto the Orange County Property Appraiser's website, and I would suggest do it monthly, and just check your property. Just put your name in there and your property or your address, it'll come up and it'll show you the stats. As long as your name is still on that property and there's no sales pending, you're good to go.
We can send out that link. We can send out the link.
Now, we'll say this, because we do experience a lot of fraud through quitclaim deeds and warranty deeds. Most of it nowadays are vacant land, vacant properties that no one's, exactly, and people are, obtaining those properties through quitclaim deeds, and then they're turning around and trying to sell it. It's a simple process for us to get that property back and get it back into your name, but as long as you're on it, and you find out, we have a process, and what we would normally do is we'd have you go down to the comptroller's office, fill out a fraudulent deed affidavit, submit that with them. We'll conduct a background investigation, we'll communicate with them, and we'll get that property flipped back in your name before anything, like I say, dastardly can happen. Any questions regarding that? Yes, ma'am.
I believe Orange County Property Appraiser, they've got they're part of a program that you can sign up and they'll send you an alert as soon as you're
Yeah.
We'll send a link up.
Yeah.
It's not in real time. It's not in real time. So that's why I suggest, until that becomes.
Just go straight to it and check.
Yeah, I suggest do it monthly, seriously. I'll check mine every once in a while. But especially if you have vacant land that's sitting somewhere, check it because there are people that is out there. Matter of fact, people are now, they were flipping these properties into their names or someone else's name. They're not even doing that anymore. They're posing as the owner of that property now, and then they're trying to sell it to another victim. So you're the property owner, and someone comes across your property, gets your information, create a fraudulent ID. Not even that. Yeah, not even that. They just need your information, and then they'll list your property for sale in your name. So that's why you want to check, the property, see if there's a sales pending, list pending, or anything like that on it.
No, I think you had mentioned the property appraiser's office. I think it's the comptroller's website that has that fraud alert.
Right.
And if you sign up on that, they'll contact you by email or phone to notify you if any document's been recorded in your name. So I would strongly recommend that.
Yeah.
Also.
Thank you all so much. Having our the best and brightest here to make sure that we're all being safe. And I think it's interesting because usually at my community meetings, the type of things that we're talking about are auto break-ins, but this is something that if you think about your biggest investment, and in this area especially where we got, sometimes there's more than one parcel in land that's being involved. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I'm so grateful for their service and their help with everything. We're going to dive right in because I'm afraid that we're going to run out of time. So go ahead and roll on to the next one. So we're going to move into just development and make sure that I've got my Orange County folks up here from our PEDS department and our road people up. Come on up. They're like, no, we want to be part of the audience. You want to go on to the next one for me? Thank you. This is just something that I recently, I think actually Laurie may have seen it, the Central Florida 100 is an opportunity we get to just put out sort of where we are, and it's a quick blurb from people in the area, and I try really hard, and I know that the Orange County staff hears me all the time talking about the importance of our rural settlements, and there's so much changing all the time, and people like to throw around the property rights as sort of a weapon, but it's also a shield. And so I think about our rural settlement residents and what they seem to have to endure as far as oftentimes the challenges with development. And so my mind, thought, heart, words, and actions are with you all as far as the things that we do down at the county. And my door's open. I try really hard to be very transparent. Everything that's coming through, I try to relate and get answers and make sure that we're giving as much real-time information as possible. But Orange County is big and it's complex and there's a lot going on. So there may be things, because you are my eyes and ears out here, that I hear from you for the first time, but then I have something that I can turn around and investigate and get more information about and get more information out to you. So that to me is my role is to be oftentimes the conduit of information and then try to advocate and be the voice of the people who put me into this job. So thank you for your time tonight. We can keep moving forward. So this was the recent case. It was actually, I think, the week after we were supposed to have had the last meeting. And then if you want to listen, I thank you all. I mean, I think about the fact that residents continually stayed engaged and updated and talked to us, and we were able to talk to the applicant. And it was to me the ideal example of the collaboration that's supposed to happen in local government, where residents express their concerns, and then we have an opportunity to actually let that play out in the process in the best way for our community. Okay, so we are going to move into planning next. Come on up, Greg Gogaski from our planning department.
I want to start with this slide in particular. I don't get out to the rural settlement very often. There's just not much going on planning-wise, and I think you're probably happy about that. But what I noticed, what was refreshing about coming out here tonight, not far from here, in fact, I drove past a sign, a real estate sign, coming soon on a piece of land.
Which one?
It was a horse barn. It wasn't a Wawa. How refreshing was that? To actually see something along those lines. Okay, now we can go to the next one, please. I wanted to talk to you about a couple of current planning proposals that are floating around out there. You may have heard about if I can help with rumor control or something, I'm glad to do that. And I also wanted to talk to you about the county-wide planning effort that we've got going on, the Vision 2050 plan. Not that I'm going to tell you what the future of Avalon, of Lake Avalon is, but some of the future land use planning that we're doing. This is the rural settlement boundary outlined by the dotted line. I think you're probably all familiar with it here. And this is the future land use map. And it's showing the residential densities for each parcel of land within there, ranging from 1 unit per 5 acres, 1 unit per 2 acres, down as low perhaps as 1 unit per acre. Okay, let's go to the next one. Here it comes. I'll give you another click. Yeah. These are the two sites I wanted to focus on initially here. The one on the upper side is on Avalon Road at Phil C. Peters, and in the lower left is the Rex Grove site. Okay. Avalon Road. We have a proposal in the works. We have a community meeting coming up, so I'm not going to give you too much information, in part because I don't have it. But the proposal here at that intersection is to ask for a land use change, to go to allow the property to be split. Let's go to the next slide, if you wouldn't, that might help. You can see it's got that dark green with the yellow border, RS, Rural Settlement 1 to 5, 1 unit per 5 acres. The proposal is to go to 1 to 2, just like those other lighter green properties around it, but also to introduce commercial onto there. Not really sure exactly what commercial is yet for this proposal, but we are having a community meeting coming up on September 28th if you need another night out. Independence Elementary School cafeteria, 6 o'clock, same as tonight. And there's flyers like this one at the front desk if you wanted to pick up something like that and get some notes on it. This is the land use plan draft of it. So they would be showing the residential part up by the intersection and a commercial component at the south. And that is about all I know right now. But you'll know more on the 28th. There it is, September 28th, 6 p.m. at the Independence Elementary. The process for reviewing that is we've got the application in now, we're going to that community meeting. It's then, after staff review and we cogitate on it all, it goes to our local planning agency, LPA, Planning and Zoning Commission, the same thing. They'll have a public hearing where you can attend. It's usually held in the mornings, on Thursday morning. Public comment can be taken. They make a recommendation on the proposal and send it to the full board of county commissioners, and your commissioner here is part of that, to consider whether or not that land use change should be adopted. It can take 6 months, maybe sometimes, to get through all of this, but that's what that one's all about. The other project, Rex Groves, on Rex Drive, I hope you know where this is roughly, north of New Independence. There you can see it's a site with orange grove and I think pine plantation probably on it. It has a future land use of 1 unit per 5 acres, but they're not using it for housing. It's agricultural component. And let's see what the next slide shows us. Okay. They have a proposal that's in the works, haven't gotten anything submitted yet on it, but they're looking to capitalize on their agricultural activity there maybe by having some uses like wedding chapel, grove tours, agriculturally related activities, but also including an RV park. I think the current proposal is 300 spaces. Let me tell you a little more about that. And they're working off of recent state legislation that allows for agritourism to be promoted, which on the face of it is a good thing, to support bona fide agricultural production, providing a stream of revenue and educating the general public about the values of agriculture. And to encourage that, let's go to the next slide. It allows for some local land use regulations to be automatically complied with, I guess. So that's been the proposal, that all of those things that I was mentioning, the developer, the property owner, is considering agritourism and therefore doesn't need county review. Our legal department doesn't agree with that.
Right.
Not entirely anyway. They may do, yeah, some grove picking and so that kind of thing is probably legitimate activity. The RV park, we're not there yet.
We're not there.
Okay. All right, so if that holds, and this is still in the early whirling of the whole thing, we would be looking for an application to the Board of Zoning Adjustment to take a look at this. And if that goes forward, they would receive it. They would take a look at it at a public hearing. Most likely there would be a community meeting. It's optional, but I suspect there'll be interest enough to warrant a community meeting. It then goes to the BZA for their formal hearing on the project. Public comment can be received, and they'll come up with a recommendation on the proposal and submit it to, again, the Board of County Commissioners for ultimate approval or denial or some sort of decision on it. Nothing in hand right now, so it's really about all we got. Quick question?
Is this a Scott Boyd property and is Scott Boyd the commissioner?
Not that I know.
No, it's not. I'm right here. Address over there. No problem.
Okay, one more?
Do the developers know that's right beside a smelly landfill?
I haven't talked to them. I know there's one in the area. All right, last one, then we're going to move on.
Concerning that Betsy Peters proposal, now, that homeowner, that property owner has shown the people that live there, and I'm right next to it, and he showed several neighbors on that street. He's wanting to put about 6 houses in there and like a sub-shop feed store at the end.
Can't do it. Can't get that many houses on that property.
Okay, well, that's what he has,
Well-
through his law firm that he's with,
Okay,
and,
okay.
anyway, I'll talk with the applicants.
Sure. And we'll hear more information from him so he
And I
can,
haven't had the applicant reach out to me, otherwise, I would pass it along.
yeah, very, very early on that.
The 28th.
Now, I would like some feedback as we go through this part of the thing, but I wanted to tell you about the Vision 2050 work that we're doing now. This is an update to the county's comprehensive plan, which is the main guiding document for Orange County. And it's a little different than I was expecting. We're trying to recognize that Orange County is so diverse. Yes, it's an urban county, but it's got wonderful natural environments, rural environments, certainly suburban environments and urban environments. And to have one plan that adequately addresses all of those things is a challenge. Okay. Let's click again. This is an excerpt from some of the draft that we've been working on. The approach we're taking now is to look at planning in 3 different levels, land use planning. Looking at market areas. We know that very broadly the county has different characters you move around it. Whether you're out by Bithlo on the Far East, very different than what you'd see up near the Zellwood area. different than downtown, different than here certainly. So the policies, the approaches that we take to planning have to differ as well. So we're breaking that down into what we're calling sectors, more specific but still very general, where we can try to guide growth a little differently. And then last of all, the place types, kind of neighborhood-focused activities. Let's go ahead. This is kind of a cartoon, but I think it shows it to the point well. There are some places in the county where we want things to go, where we want to see development happen. We're going to put the services behind them to support that. There are others where let's go a little slower maybe. Some change maybe is good, but not wholesale changes. And when you get down to the hot fudge sundae level of easy, let's put that under whoa. So there's various sectors shown on this map that I'll get into a little bit more on the next slide. Sectors designate by policy if a general area should develop, redevelop, or stay the same in the planning horizon. Again, we're looking at 2050. Targeted areas are probably the areas that we hope to have the most activity seen. These are areas that have open land, have old shopping centers that need redeveloping, areas where we want to see the most urban activity occur. And we've identified areas around the county shown there in red. Intended growth, we've lost the eastern half of the county, but the idea here is that some areas have already been planned out. You're familiar with Horizon West, which has had a master plan in place for a long time, and development is following that plan. It's intended to have growth in that area. And there's some others on the east side, the Lake Pickett area, Innovation Way, Avalon Park, have master plans where growth was to occur. And there are a lot of established areas. This is where most of the county's population lives, largely suburban developments, where we want things to, it's established, it's settled. There's no reason you should expect things to drastically change in there. You want to have that kind of confidence. And rural, which is where you are, if we'll click again. The Lake Avalon Rural Settlement. Here it's rural, we expect it to stay rural, we intend it to stay rural, and our policies will be supporting that in the future. Okay. So breaking that down further, we get into place types. And this, I mentioned it was neighborhoods. We're trying to look at land as a community, as a neighborhood, not this is my parcel of land versus your parcel of land next door. Can we play together nicely or not? We're trying to have more flexibility in things so that the entire neighborhood functions as a unit and develops as a place that you would like to be. An excerpt from some of the policies that we're working on right now, and it talks about the sectors, but it also talks about the rural service area where we are tonight. And this portion of the county outside the USA is the rural service area, including agricultural lands, historic resources, and rural settlements, together with environmental lands, natural areas, and such. When I talk about the future of Lake Avalon, the future is hopefully the same as it is today, pretty much. The policies that we have protecting rural settlements are going to be carried forward into this plan. So I think you can have confidence in that. But one of the place types I'll just share with you now is urban levels and rural levels. One is a rural center, with the example here being Yellow Dog Eats in the center of Dothan, where currently our policies for commercial in rural settlements are kind of vague. Uses are supposed to be neighborhood serving to come in, very subjective, and we've had things like auto parts stores and beyond that qualify. So we're hoping that we can tighten that up a little bit and give you the protection as well as the allocation of commercial uses. This is the website. For more information on all that, please visit it. I'd love to hear any comments that time allows, Commissioner. And I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
Thank you for that great information. It's a living document right now. We're really reviewing drafts. So I think it's really important that if you have thoughts and questions, that this is the time. I'm seeing, do we want to hold off and?
This is just real quick. We designed a commercial overlay in 2007, and you know how you said you had a body shop, etc. In our Lake Avalon Rural Settlement, our commercial overlay, it has a list of 2 pages of exclusions, like you can't have strip clubs, you can't have pawn shops, you can't have. So there's a whole listing. I don't know if you're familiar with our commercial overlay, but it exists and it's there. And I think we did a really good job of trying to exclude the pawn shops and the auto body shops, etc., from what we had. But obviously, we would love to add more things to that, like elementary and middle schools. But I digress. But anyway, I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to be carried forward in the Orange Code.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we'll continue to talk about it. I know they're very patient with me because I do go back and relook at each of those things, and I think, you know, I mean, we sort of just went through an update even Horizon West with some other permissible uses, and so it's, you know, there's a lot of good dialogue. So we'll make sure when we get back to that specifically, to make sure we're looping in. But I think just know that, you know, as of right now, even though this is a comprehensive plan update and we have to plan for the entire county, that Lake Avalon Rural Settlement is protected the same way it's been protected and will continue to be protected. I just, well, that to me is like, I know some of this can get complex, but I want that to be the underlying message that is, that hits home, because I know that it doesn't feel like that sometimes, so.
And I'm going to say that Commissioner Wilson has been involved in this. It's really good to have that local input being worked in directly with the process.
Yeah,
here.
once again, that's what local government's for. Like, you know, it just, to me, it feels you know, as fundamental as anything that I hear from you all about those things that are important to you, where you live in your homes, and then I get to relay that while the policies being sculpted. Okay, so I think next we've got updates on, okay, here it is. I know this was of great interest, so I just want you all to know that we're gonna continue to get dates out as it moves forward. Clearly there's, you know, there's just activity, and so we wanna make sure that you sign up for our newsletter at NicoleWilson.org so that you get all those updates. I think, you know, sometimes they come out and there's a lot of things that you're like, I don't really care about this. That's okay, because for the one that you do care about, then, you know, grab it and let us know. Okay, we got some roadway updates, and this is for New Independence Parkway in that area. I don't know if we've got, Brian, you want to head on up?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Sanders with the Transportation Planning Division, and the project intersections that you see here fall within the 545 Town Center project that we're just going through the work sessions and hearings for the study. And at these locations, there's a new light at New Independence. Hamlin Elementary, that's up and running as well. Lake Ingram, there's the fire station that's at the hospital now is going to relocate to just right across from Lake Ingram Road. So we're going to have an emergency signal there. Porter Road, there will be a signal there as well. That intersection project is being pulled out of the study and going straight into design and construction as quickly as possible to match up with the construction of the medical college that got approved just on the west side of the road. So it's a race to join those two projects together. There's a big dip in the road over there, and there's going to be a big savings in the maintenance of traffic if we do that early. And then, of course, Schofield Road is a major intersection that will receive a signal as well as part of the larger project, not with Porter Road. in terms of roundabouts in that area, as we entered into the study, there was so much land use already approved all up and down that corridor that we would be having to take additional right-of-way back from those developments that we've already approved. And we've also found that the design year performance of roundabouts tend to fall short of traditional intersections. So what you're doing is you're introducing an earlier year of failure for that roadway by including those. So it's a balancing act. And all of our projects now go through the ICE procedure for intersection control evaluation. So we look at the broad range of intersection needs for the roadways. I think that's about it.
Okay.
For that one.
I'm sorry. Okay, it's a winter garden jurisdiction, but I did, yeah. Well, and I did reach out when I got that information to the city manager, and we're gonna talk tomorrow. I did just get an update that they're restricting class 6 and above, and they're lowering the speed limit to 25. I think you all knew all that. So we're gonna talk about the signage tomorrow and I'll get more information to you.
So the Expressway Authority has a project that they're working on right now go back up. There we go. To create a toll facility between US 27 and the 429. There will be a connection for a future road called Valencia Parkway, halfway between the county line and 429 on our side. There's 3 segments. Moving into construction, there's a bidding process. Takes about a half a year to complete to get a contractor on board. And then I understood they were just going to construct it all together, even though there's 3 segments. So that's going to be a very important roadway for the east-west mobility. We are in the process of constructing other east-west roads. I think we presented here earlier about that. So New Independence Parkway is going to go all the way across. It's at the pace of development. Lake County side is ahead of us. We're studying the New Independence leg now. Fleming's Road and Sawgrass Bay Boulevard.
Further south.
Further south, yeah, down by the Disney Road. Western Lake, thank you.
It's okay. It's okay.
It takes a village. So there's a number of east-west roads coming. That one's coming very rapidly, and it'll provide some relief down at 192 and State Road 50.
Yeah, I think the key is getting these people off of.
I know.
Yeah, exactly, and especially some of that, from the activity down in the Flamingo Crossing area. I think that connection is going to make a huge.
Yeah, you may see some relief in some of the traffic of Heartwood Marsh. They don't have to go as far north to take an east-west road. So, things like that can benefit you. It can also backfire because it's going to carry traffic as well.
If we go to the last one real quick, because I want to make sure people are interested in what's happening at Tiny and Tilden.
Tiny and Tilden Road, yeah, that's an intersection project that we got federal funding on through Metro Plan Orlando. We have a big presence on that committee, and we grab up the federal funding as it comes through. Let's see, funding will be start July 23rd for construction of that project, and then that's a traditional T intersection. It'll have a traffic signal. Incidentally, we're also T right there. We're in the middle of a study for improvements on Tiny Road as well. So, and that goes all the way down to the Bridgewater Middle School.
Thank you so much for the update.
It's all you.
I was going to say we can dive right into it. I know that because Captain Neela was kind enough to give us the time at the beginning, so we can let him relax and enjoy this thrilling conversation about traffic, which I know that he cleans up our messes a lot of times. So thank you for being out there in the field during some of the I think breakdowns in these areas. So if you want to address the questions.
Okay, folks, Good evening, and I think I have met some of you. My name is Masood Mirza. I'm Chief Engineer, Orange County Traffic. This is my second time coming here, and thank you for inviting me, Commissioner. Thank you for inviting me into your community. But before we get into things which I want to report and then answer your questions, I would like to tell you a little bit about our approach. The way we approach any of the traffic issues is based on three criteria. First, safety. Second, efficiency. Third is inconvenience. We will never sacrifice anything we are doing to reduce the safety. It sometimes means we have to put medians, sometimes it creates inconvenience, so we always, the safety trumps everything. So that's our criteria. And the other thing I would like to tell you guys, no matter how good we do the engineering, we cannot achieve the solution and solve the problem. So we are requesting all of citizens and our partners to help each other by what we call it 4E approach, which means we do the engineering part. Engineering, I have the best engineers, they design the best signal, the best system, but the putting of the signs, putting of the signals only carries so much weight, so much. Then the next part is, essential part is enforcement. If we don't get the enforcement of those signs, our design is useless. The third part is education. That's where all the communities comes in to help us, because a lot of time we've seen it that yes, there are outsiders coming in and speeding through the neighborhoods, but there are people who generally, and again, it's not, I'm not directing to any particular community, but in my 30 years of experience, I have seen it, 60% of the speeding on neighborhood road is done by the people who live in that neighborhood. So education is a key component, and where HOAs like you guys come in, that you start talking to your neighbors in your in your HOA meetings about the safety of traffic, and to respect the signs, and to respect the design. Because really, I cannot be there all the time. Sheriff's office cannot be there all the time. You are there all the time. So we all need to work together to make our network and system safe. The last but not least is our emergency service providers. One of the things which we are very careful is the need for emergency service provider. Generally, people don't consider that they are critical. Only time they feel critical if you have unfortunately, if you have a heart attack or you need an ambulance. And if we design a system which will hinder their speed or they increase the response time, that end of the day, it will hurt the people. So we also keep that in their need in mind. Okay, with that said, I'm gonna talk about, when I come last time, there were a lot of concerns shared with me about what people call it dead man curve. And then also Williams Road and Hardwood Marsh and all that. So we made some promises, we made some, that we are gonna look at it and we are gonna see what we can do. And I am glad to report that we did everything we promised, except when there was a request to put a 10-ton speed limit sign on Hardwood Marsh Road. On the Williams Road, there is a speed limit. There is a limit sign right as you turn from Hardwood Marsh. The request was to put signs on Hardwood Marsh. We went there, my staff and I, excuse me, personally went there, and we observed what is really happening. Yes, there are some trucks which will come in and then they either make a U-turn or they just, if I may, sir. Okay, they make a U-turn or they continue. That's what I was talking about. I can put signs 10 feet from each other, but if there is no enforcement, they won't follow it. So that is the solution. And by Florida statute, I cannot put weight limit restrictions on streets like Hardwood Marsh to say that 2 miles from here there is a road where there is a speed limit weight restrictions. We have to put the weight restriction on the road. So I'm sorry,
Not true.
ma'am.
I have it on Avalon Road that goes to Davenport. It says 10-ton weight limit. It is about 100 feet from when you turn onto Davenport. It is there.
Okay, I cannot say how it got there, and I'm just talking about what my research has shown. And okay, so we will do something else. But that's what the point was made last time, and we looked at it. I cannot say why it was put there. There are a lot of things which should have not be out there, but they are out there. So that was the one left over from that last list. Now you are talking. There is. Hold on, let me get my glasses.
I did want to let you know, I was actually talking to Captain Ela about and especially for commercial industries, businesses where a driver may be licensed through the county, there may be enforcement options that we have if we know for sure there's something going on that is prohibited. So just make sure that when, if you have, don't confront anybody. Just give us a call, give Captain Ela a call, call 311, and we can make sure that if there's a way to do it, in that manner through their professional license, then it may be a good way to enforce.
Yeah. So, we continually monitor our network for any additional signs or any other traffic control needs. So that's what we do for this area also. So and if and when needed, we will provide additional signs at the locations, at the critical locations, based on my engineering staff recommendation. There is one question, and the fourth one is cut-through traffic reduction measures that can be implemented due to the new elementary and middle school just south of what is that? NIP is what you? Sorry? New Independence Parkway. Okay. Folks, one thing you have to understand, these what you call it cut-through traffic. You have to understand the handling of cut-through traffic is very sensitive thing, because traffic is like water. If I stop the traffic on main road and it will go, instead of going into the main place where it should go, it will go through the neighborhood. Because that's why I understand your concern that the traffic is increasing on the roads, and that is creating operational problems, but we have to keep a balance. We cannot make the collectors' arterials so narrow that those trucks, those vehicles go through the neighborhood. So we have to keep a balance. If you have a area where you are concerned, please call 311 and tell us what specific areas you are concerned. So we will do some analysis. We will do some origin and destination surveys, which means where the trucks are coming, where they are going, is there a destination in there, or they are just passing through. We can do all of that to determine what mitigations we can install. So please, the last item here, the cut through, if you can give me a little bit more information, I will definitely have my staff look into it and then take the mitigation accordingly. Okay, Commissioner, that's all I have. And if there are any questions, I know that you have questions. I'm gonna go one by one. Let's start with row one.
I didn't hear what you said about the Dead Man's Curve update. You said you had some changes to that?
So what we did based on our evaluation last time, we put RPMs, we put chevron signs, we refresh the painting to make the curve. We cannot change the curve with as a traffic operation improvement, we improved and make it more visible. And since then, I have not seen any, and I have checked, maybe I'm missing 1 or 2 accidents, but we haven't seen any major accidents or anything around that. Okay. Yes, sir.
On the dead man curve, when you're either way you go, it used to be that light. There was a flashing light, and it gave you plenty of time to know that you're on that curve. Now they've moved it or changed the sensors, so you're right on the sign before it goes off, and you hardly ever have time to even look at see the light flashing, and you're right on the curve.
If that's the case, I promise you, I will have my staff look at it, where the sensors are, if they are working properly or not. It should not be what you just described. If it is, we will fix it.
And
Yes.
Sorry, I also, Captain Neal had a couple of things he wanted to share before we run out of time. Okay.
Sir, do you have a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead. Yes.
Williams Road and Seidner Road and Davenport Road are routinely violated. They've had 10-ton weight limit signs posted for 15 years. And trucks are going through there every single day. Every day, day after day, we have called, we have reported, we've taken pictures, we have done everything, and it's also destroying the aprons on the road because they're cutting over the corners and making the potholes that are now also having to be repaired.
Hey, Jeff, real quick, guys who live on that, is there a certain time of the day that it happens? Like if the sheriff's department, if it was like, hey, between 6 and 7:30 every morning, there's a couple of trucks that go by, is that something that?
It's random.
It's random.
Throughout the day. Yeah, there's not a set pattern. So that's the challenge.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know much about commercial trucking laws. It's really not my forte, but we have people that know about that. So that's a new one to me. I'll look into it. And if it's something that I can handle, then I'll handle it. If it's something that requires a highway patrol and they're commercial trucking, they're partners of ours, we'll get on it. I have written down Williams Road, Seidel Road, and Davenport Road. Seidner, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up on that and see what I can do about that. There was other concerns about school traffic, right? Someone was.
Well, I think part of what's happening is with the Heartwood Marsh from Stony Brook, from Avalon
Yes.
and Stony Brook, that's an 18-month project that they just started. So people want to avoid that. So now they're cutting through Williams and Davenport, going down Rex, cutting through McKinney Road. Now, in 18 months when that road is completed, will they go back to going all the way to Stony Brook and Avalon and make the right to come down, or will they continue to cut through?
It'll be the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, so what you're speaking of, especially in this part of Orange County, is you're not unique. This is a problem all through southwest Orange County. And with all of these large booms in residential areas, we're building all these new schools. As a matter of fact, on the 26th, we're actually having a meeting with school board and county planning. And our traffic captain and I are gonna sit down because it's just not working, folks. We're still building schools as if we bus students. And if y'all don't know, every school is built so that if you're within 2 miles of that school, and we're talking elementary schools, your kid's supposed to walk to and from school. It's a great idea. I've got young kids. I wouldn't send my first grader walking 2 miles to school across multiple intersections, right? So from a parent standpoint, I understand that. I'm gonna drive my kid. Well, the average elementary school is somewhere between 900 and 1,000 students. Maybe 40 of them are bused because they're special needs. The car line accommodates 30 to 40 cars. So, listen, I empathize with you because guess where all of these complaints go? It's a terrain issue. I can't fix your terrain issue. I can't fix it. I understand your frustration. I live beside a high school. If I don't leave my house by 6:50, I sit down and I drink another cup of coffee because I'm not getting out till 7:20. I'm not excusing it, But the problem is, as long as we keep building these schools that don't accommodate the traffic, and we're putting them on 6-lane highways, which there are some elementary schools off of 6-lane highways, we're gonna have these problems. And they're in the middle of neighborhoods. They're in the middle of quarter-acre subdivisions. And people are frustrated because their neighborhoods are filling up. They're public roadways. They're public rights-of-way. So anyway, long story short, we're meeting with the Orange County Planning and the School Board on the 26th, and we're hoping to encourage maybe a little different outlook on how we design these moving forward.
And from my understanding, to exacerbate that, there's for the kids that do bus, there's a bus driver shortage, so so it's putting even more pressure on that. So you're seeing, I think there's like the magnification, but to your point, I doubt they regularly bring in the people that are out there trying to direct traffic. When they talk about looking at the footprint, they're making an efficient footprint. And so this huge chunk of property is eaten up by a bus turn lanes.
And so to speak to what Mr. Massoud said, there's signage put up. Well, there's 1,000 signs in Southwest Orange County across how many 100 square miles? I mean, does someone ask the question when the trucks are hitting and there isn't a specific time? I'll do my best and I'll get the partners and we'll try to target it. And I think that if we can enforce a few, the word will get out. But the other angle is, I was talking with Commissioner Wilson about, is all of those folks are driving trucks for an Orange County permitted job. So their employers, there can be some heat put on, just the awareness. We work day to day really well together. And there's more than one way that we can attack this problem, and we'll do what we can for
It's
it.
the Lake County sand mine.
Okay.
That is the main culprit for the dump trucks that are coming through.
Understood.
Well,
We'll get on it, and we'll try to make an impact on that. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I think that the problems with the schools and people bringing their kids to school and the traffic and all the problems with that is engineering. No offense. I'm a computer programmer by trade.
He's not that angle. He's not the school engineer.
I'm just saying.
He's sent in to fix the mess once it's built.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying the planning to start it, not taking that into consideration.
That is why we have this meeting.
These cars have to have a place to go to get off, and so that they can go and very efficiently drop off their children and pick them up safely.
You are preaching to the choir, my friend.
All right.
The new school down off of Sidell Road.
I love it.
There's a traffic light that's supposed to be there that's not going to be there till we don't know when.
Yeah, and so
it's right beside 429, right? So how many on-ramps to 429 and off-ramps are there to 429 when you've got 70,000 residents down in that area, right? So it's spitting distance from an elementary school that has 900 cars coming every morning and 900 cars going every afternoon. So yes, I'm not an engineer and I don't pretend like I can solve this problem, but my question is, and what we hope to resolve, or at least start the conversation in this meeting, are you considering how we're constructing these? And I'll tell you, we don't bus kids anymore, but we've got one of the schools that Commissioner Wilson and I have been to many times together. There's a bus loop at the school that's well over half a mile long, but we can't use that to let parents go in and out because that's reserved for buses. There are 4 buses a day that go to that school, 4. So there's all kinds of things, what we're left with is a problem when we have to try to find the best solution. We can't change the terrain. It's built. We want to find the best solution, but what we hope to do is prevent some of these problems moving forward by having these discussions. And it's just awareness, right? It's all of us that are impacted getting together, sitting down and saying, all right, this design doesn't work and this is why. This is the problems it's causing. Is there another way we can attack this problem when we build this next school and the next school? Can we do this better?
Well, you're great to be on that. Be in that meeting because you got children and you having to do all this.
Listen, school traffic is the bane of my existence. School traffic is the bane of my existence. You would not believe how much energy is spent on this singular topic, and it is literally for Sector 3, it's all this end, because this is where the new stuff is.
which actually reminds me, if you know anybody that wants to be a school crossing guard for teenagers, I mean, honestly, it is one of those where it is a great gig for people who, you know, do have either kids or grandkids or want to be like near school, and it's part-time, and we really need them. And we're short school crossing guards also. So if you're interested in that, please reach out.
Again, I'm going to tell you, y'all are voters. Okay? These are the issues that are impacting you, and all I can do is try to give you a little bit of my perspective from the end that I see it. And, you know, your voices are powerful, and these are things that we need to address as a community moving forward to try to, okay, this damage is already done, but let's not keep doing it.
Well, the problem is, the people who are making the decisions on these things, these planning and all that, they're not elected. I mean, who are these people? The problem is, we have no voice over, if we could sit down, 8 of us, just 80, you take 80 random people.
You do have a very good voice.
You would solve the problem.
You
need these politicians.
You have a very good voice, and I'm not a political guy. I've been doing this job 27 years.
Yeah,
this lady here works.
She's not, but that's not the problem.
But she's part of the solution.
Are the planners, the people who sit in these cubes with a keyboard, and they try and they can solve our problems, but they don't even know what they are.
Having you here and having these type of meetings, and I mean, you've seen, right? Even since I've been here, there have been things that we've been able to resolve because of working together and because of hearing.
And in the grander scheme of things, this is a fairly new problem too. So again, I'm not excusing it, but this massive growth and this traffic issue with schools, for the history of Orange County, this is a fairly new problem. There's all kinds of things that have happened in the last 5 to 10 years, right? We don't bus kids anymore. Unless you're outside of 2 miles. Well, I could tell you right now, there might be 10 kids in Orange County that live more than 2 miles from their school. It doesn't happen because these communities are all built densely around the schools. So it's just going to be a matter. I'm confident that we can do better collectively moving forward. I'm hopeful we can do better collectively moving forward. Yes.
So since it's pouring down and we're probably not leaving any this second, can you quickly just touch base on Avalon Road and the widening and what you know about it?
Avalon Road.
I mean, is there something brief or something you can go about? Because a lot of people are like,
Avalon Road widening of Avalon.
Things are coming and what's the timeline?
Avalon Road widening, which part?
Mostly through our rural settlement.
Oh, through the rural settlement. Well, as part of our long-range plan, we do see that there will be a capacity need between the town center and where Winter Garden takes over responsibility. Now, the diocese that's coming in, we've requested additional right-of-way. We don't know exactly what the road is going to look like, what the capacity needs are right now, because we haven't done a study. It's not, I don't think that road is failing, that segment is failing.
I think they're going to tell you that they want everyone to go around. So what if we can think of it? Yeah, no, I was going to say, so if we can think of this in terms of not necessarily capacity or you know, I think the phrases that we understand for him, but in terms of if that part of the road is serving the people who live there versus the people that are coming through there, is there alternatives for them to get around, and how do we make sure that's happening? Because path of least resistance is a thing.
Right, and we talked about cut-through traffic as well. So if you limit 545's capacity, people are going to start looking for other ways around. There's any public road they will take, they will fill up little roads as much as they can if they can't get through 545. There's very limited north-south roadways in that area. You've got US 27, and there's a huge barrier right now. You got the 429, and you got 535. So, you know, they all have a lot of traffic on them already. So where are you going to go? There's really not an opportunity to create a new parallel road, and that's what you really need. Go ahead, Laurie.
Tiny road.
Tiny
You
road.
said that there was going to be a program sign. Tiny Road actually runs parallel, so it's right there at the Foundation Academy in Tilden, right? So if that was 4 lane, and then it goes to Fowler's Road Trail, is that it? That goes right by the Walmart, okay? And if that was 4 lane, and I had an option of going on a 4, if I'm coming up from Stony Brook on 545, and I either make a right to go on Avalon, or a left to go right down, quarter mile, whatever it is, and then go north on Tiny on a 4-lane road that's gonna connect me to another 4-lane road, then I would have more of a tendency to take the 4-lane road and then to come through a 2-lane road through the rural settlement.
I'm going to tell you that Tiny Road is not going to be a replacement for 545. It is not a regional roadway. It's very short compared to 545, and people that are destined to north of 545 are not going to take this big long detour because there's a rural settlement. They're just not.
I think they will.
So what do you know about the, what do you know?
So Brian, when are they gonna start looking at the potential to 4-lane through our rural settlement, doing that study?
Yeah, as the capacity of the road begins to fail, we'll start seeing those concurrency evaluations, because we take counts on these roads, and then we'll start to see, well, there's beginning to be a problem. The complaints will start rolling in as it gets closer and closer to that failure, and that's the time we look at some sort of a solution. And we can look at parallels, we can look at tackling it head on, and there's lots of treatments that it doesn't have to be the typical 4-lane urban roadway. There's 4-lane roadways that have a suburban style that we can look at as well.
Yeah, you all know, he knows too, so this isn't gonna be a shock for our traffic people. I'm like, if you build it, they'll come. I just have that, that fear that if we build it, they'll come. So I understand we're gonna here's the thing that I think is really important for tonight, and especially knowing that we don't have that information yet, right? That we will keep you informed at every stage of this, right? So if we end up looking at a study, if there's something going on, we will make sure to get you all involved. And
before the Hamlin was even built, 545 should have been fixed, okay? Anyone who thinks there wasn't gonna be traffic from there coming through here, that's one thing. And whoever was behind when they reconfigured coming west, I think, on Stony Brook to turn left onto 545, someone correct me if I have my directions wrong. Whoever reconfigured that to have a right turn only lane, so now it backs up about 2 miles for us to. So now it backs up about 2 miles. At certain times of the day, it backs all the way up. The only center lane that goes straight, so those of us who want to turn left can't even turn left because we can't get near the left turn lane, which is, 100 yards long? It's worse now than it was when it first was. So I guess my biggest question is, why are people that live in the area not involved in the pre-planning 5 years before the disaster happens? Because obviously people like you, and this is not your fault, have no idea what's really going on here because you don't live here.
Amen. That's right.
So most of the roads that we're tackling now, all of the 545 roads, they've been on the plan for in excess of 25 years. I know because I put them on. I'm that old.
25 years ago, there wasn't a problem. 5 years ago, the problem started. Whenever the Hamlin was developed, thank you. When the Hamlin became someone's bright idea.
2019.
Okay, well then they should have started planning. Exactly. That's the problem. They're not. It's the same thing like the schools. They build a school for the size of the neighborhood that big. So next year, when the neighborhood's twice the size, the school's already overcrowded and everyone's inaffordable. There has to be more forward thinking. Not every city is this behind.
So forward thinking, again, we've had the road network identified over the past 25 years. Horizon West has been planned out, the road networks, all of it through sector planning and specific area planning. That's all been planned out. Okay, so now it's about money, right? Who has the money to put the infrastructure in ahead of what might come? And remember, we went through recessions where everything stopped. The impact fees hit the bottom. You know, we were looking at reorganizing the county in certain circumstances. So there's been recessions and pandemics. There has been.
And the Hamlet still is built and built and built and built.
I saw the green light on as an employer, you know.
Okay, I can, so again, there's cash flow issues. The county has developed a process which we bring developers in to finance the road for us because we don't have the cash flow to put these roads in ahead of time. So we gained a little extra time by getting them to finance these infrastructures ahead of when the county could. So I think we've tuned that throttle as much as we can, and it's all about supply and demand.
But it's also about, I understand about the money thing, but you have to know what goes on in any area in order to properly service that area. People sitting in south of Lane or whatever, sitting downtown are gonna, and never driving out here, are never gonna know how to take care of us. Safety, the other gentleman was talking about safety. Safety is out the window around here as far as driving. And I know nothing can be done immediately, but what I'm saying.
I have to kind of intervene here and say that actually our staff lives all over the county. I think, District 1 probably is probably the home for more Orange County staff, but I understand your frustration. No. Well, and I think also, and this is a problem, that I think there's also interjurisdictional issues, right? So even just tonight, we heard about things that were happening with CFX. I know the intersection you just described is Winter Garden. We work with all of them, but they do have different sometimes standards, and they have different timelines. So it is frustrating for all of us, and we do all live here. But I hear your frustration. I agree with you that it feels like the cart, the horse, and that's the part that I think is really hard, especially when it is a safety thing, when you do have children that you want to walk across the street.
So we heard about the Rover project starting out, which is Avalon and Phil C. And now we're talking about a future 4-lane road on Avalon. How can we even talk about the Rover project? It will eat up part of the Rover project. So isn't this the time where we say, let's wait with the Rover project until we figure out the Avalon situation?
I mean, I can't speak for the applicant. I can't speak for to be honest, I think what we were trying to identify was what would be the process should the time come. But we haven't been presented that project yet as a full application, so I don't have enough information to give you. I would say that they do a whole analysis. They have to make that part of the application. And that'll all be public, and we'll make sure to get it out.
Because that all of a sudden, when you grab some of that property, now you are down to even less per dwelling, right? When you grab part of it for your road.
It would be so hard to, it would be so hard to say because there are already easements in place in some, it would be hard to say without looking at a site plan or where the existing right-of-way is. Okay, I think if that is it, I want to make sure that if you don't already get was there a question? I'm sorry. Okay, if you don't already get my newsletter, NicoleWilson.org, I know these things are frustrating and complex, but I rely on you, and I appreciate you being here and giving us your time. And I hope that if you have any other questions that hit you on the way out or on the way home, that you just reach out to us. I take a lot of pride in making sure that we get as much information out as we can get. So they all know I'm a little bit of a pest sometimes, but I'm like, do you have a map? Can I have a map to share? Can I get it? So I want to thank the staff for being here tonight with us. That was so helpful. And of course, our friends from the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you guys for inviting us.
Thank you guys so much for coming. The rain officially stopped about 3 minutes ago, so now we're good to go.
Thank you.